Hi, I'm Cheryl Broom, host of Higher Ed Conversations and CEO of GradCom. And today I have a very special guest. And not only is she special because she's the executive assistant to the superintendent and board of trustees for the San Marcos Unified School District, she's also special because she is an AI expert and is my sister-in-law and shares my birthday. And is here actually in the office with me, which is the first time I've ever had a guest in person.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
So you're our first in-person guest.
I'll take all the firsts.
Yeah. And for those of you that listen to this podcast on your phone and don't know, we actually do record this and put it up on YouTube. So if you want to see the wonderful Suzi Boynton, you can go to our YouTube channel and check out the podcast. So I invited Suzi on to the podcast because she has been speaking at conferences throughout California about how she uses AI and has integrated it into her school district and is teaching people responsible and ethical ways to use tools that are available. And I know in marketing, we are starting to explore the use of AI, and
Yes.
a lot of the schools are kind of asking how and what and when they should be using it. So
Yes.
Suzi is here to talk all things AI. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So how did this interest in AI begin?
Okay, so I started to seek out professional development. There's not a lot of groups in the executive assistant world that provide good professional development for our industry. And so I found a group called it's called ASAP, which is very easy to remember. And it's the American Society of Administrative Professionals. And although that's not tailored to K-12 school districts like what I work in, I decided that there's a need for professional development for myself to get better at my job, and because there's a lack of that that professional development out there in the world, I just went with this group. And so I went to their conference, and there was a bunch of vendors. Let me rephrase that. There was a bunch of vendors, not vendors. Let me rephrase that again. There was a bunch of vendors at this conference that were demoing platforms, specifically calendaring platforms for executive assistants. And so what I did at that conference, I ended up sitting in almost every single demo that they offered in AI. And I started having these light bulb moments go off. And so at one of them that was the company's called EA Buddy, and it's a calendaring platform that helps you streamline your daily calendaring. We do a lot of that as an executive assistant and in general across all industries. But she showed me how I could save basically 5 minutes on one task. And the way my brain works, because I was an accounting major, I started going, wait a minute, let me quantify that across my entire organization. And what does that mean? And so that afternoon, I went back to my hotel after the conference that day, and I was like, wow, that equates to, if I save everybody in my district 5 minutes, that equates to 250 hours. And that's only on one task. And so I started to think about that on a grander scale, and what an organization could do with that kind of time, and the changes that they could make when people got that kind of time back, and what would that mean to each one individually. And so that sparked this intense interest in AI, just in its efficiency capabilities, but also like what it means to business in general for school districts and industry, and all industries pretty much.
I love that you saw the potential of AI rather than thinking, oh my God, this is going to take my job.
Yes.
Like, did you ever have, as you've dove more into all the tools out there, have you ever become afraid that you're going to be obsolete or we're going to be obsolete, or you think it's going to improve things?
That's a really good one. I mean, I think I had 1 minute where I felt like that. I was like, uh-oh. But the reality is the more I started investigating and reading articles and like fine-tuning my knowledge in AI, I started realizing it's the next industry, right? So I don't need to be scared of it, but what I need to do is upskill myself so that I'm relevant to my industry when we shift. And there's a big shift across the world right now with AI, you know, and our jobs are changing, and our skill set's going to have to change too. And so for me, I didn't see it as scary. I saw it as like exciting because I get to think about my job in a new way, and then I get to explore learning. Like I get to learn my job in a new way, and everybody will say this. You'll hear this the more and more you talk about AI. People won't be replaced by AI, but people who know AI will replace the people who don't know AI. And so part of me just feeling that deeply said, okay, well, I'm not going to be left behind either. So
Yeah.
Let's get on board and let's learn.
That's great. I mean, just thinking of the calendar example, like, do you remember when before we used like Calendly or those AI tools, it'd be like 4,000 emails trying to find a time to meet. Like how much time we wasted doing simple things that that AI can now do for us.
Yeah. And so let's just take an example of just like one task. So as an executive assistant, I'm constantly creating calendar events for the members of the public, city council, with my boss at the school district. And so we're talking hundreds and hundreds of tasks, right? And so there's no reason for me to manually look at a calendar for open space. AI can go take that, can go do that for me, and then I can use my time now thinking more strategically about how I do my job. So I don't need to be the eyes looking at every single day for the next month if that's what my boss has asked me to do, or if that's what somebody's requesting. I let AI go take care of that and bring me back options, and then I can decide what to do with them.
Right. So. Oh my gosh, I just had a flashback of working on the college campus, and I would have to be the one, like if the general public wanted to rent the gym, or like they wanted to rent the theater, I would have to like call all across campus to see the dates. And oh my gosh, the fact that you could just like tell the AI or the computer like what's available and have that's such a time saver.
It's a huge time saver. And I do look at it through a lens of efficiency, but also I had this conversation earlier today with somebody, and that like by getting that time back, like what does that mean? And really what I think it means is we get to do the human parts. So prior to this, we've all been really, and at least in education, I feel we're asked to do more with less resources, right? And so we are bogged with day-to-day tasks and things like this that can be automated with AI. So what I see the opportunity, where I see the opportunity is that I get to put like a human touch to my job more than I did before, because I get to scale back all those menial tasks, and now I get to add value in my unique human way. So in my Suzi way, I get to add something to my job and to my role.
And that's something that really stuck out for me when I saw your presentation, was this philosophy that, AI is going to save us time, and what do we do with that time? And that's the question that organizations need to be asking.
Yes.
Is we're going to give people tools to do their job better, to take away menial tasks, and in return, what are we going to ask them to do? And I loved your philosophy that this gives us the opportunity to be better critical thinkers, to be better colleagues, to ask better questions, to serve people better.
Yeah.
So it gives us the opportunity to really be better.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I feel that AI is allowing us to be critical thinkers and creative thinkers, right? So again, we were kind of more the doers before. And now I feel like we're getting to scale out and scale up and kind of spend that time that we were previously spending on being the doers and putting 2:00 on the calendar or 4:00 on the calendar. And now we get to think about our roles strategically. So for me, what does that look like? How do I help my organization achieve its goals? And from the lens of what an employer is going to do with that, do they want to improve company wellness? Do they want to improve company culture? Well, they have more time to do those things now because the automated piece is given back. I'll just reference it's Grammarly's one of their annual, or not annual reports, but one of their reports that they just released said that knowledge workers can save 7.75 hours a week by using generative AI in their jobs. Okay, that's a full day. What would you do? And so I asked some of my colleagues, some of the other executive assistants here in North County, what would you do with that? And across the board, everybody says 4-day work week. But we're seeing that more and more and more. So that could be something that actually contributes to wellness if an employer's initiative is wellness, because people want more time to themselves. Yeah. So it just depends on what their goals are, what their objectives are, and where they want to add value for their organization by saving that time.
Yeah. Well, I just had this like diabolical thought, like save 7.5 hours a week. What would I make my employees do?
Yes.
But no, I love it. Like, no, maybe I would actually move to a 4-day work week. Like, if you're not having to spend all this time doing those things, like, why not use the rest of your time wisely and have some more time for your family?
That's another reason why I started this. I was so compelled after seeing all these platforms that I decided I needed to show internally the group of people with the similar job titles and roles like me. I need to expose them to this, because education can sometimes be a little slow on the technology piece. And I just thought, hey, exposure is great. Let's start having the conversation. We might not be rolling out anything yet, but let's show people what it looks like in action, right? There's no harm doing that. And what I got was all those same light bulbs going off in the room like they did for me when I talked to you about the person that showed me my one task and how that, kind of just snowballed. I see those light bulbs go off for people. And that, like right now, what you just did, that's why I love talking to people about it, because they have these light bulb moments. I call them aha moments. And it's just so exciting to see that go off for people in different ways, and like how they can creatively think about it's like this whole new world. We get to like imagine all these new things about how we do our job, what we want to do with that extra time. Are we gonna have a full day off? What does that mean for my family? Like, it has all these like snowball effects, really, and for me that's really exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
Well, you've given us some really good examples about the ways that you've used AI, and the presentation I saw you give had some great examples that I didn't even know existed. Yes. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want you to give us some examples of your favorite uses so far.
Okay, sounds good.
How do higher education decision makers find the right solution when technology evolves at light speed? Well, we usually start with our network. EdTech Connect is the network that's democratizing the higher ed technology conversation. EdTech Connect is free, so anyone with a .edu email address can sign up and list the software and services they use in their role at their school. Once you're in, you can find out what solutions similar schools are doing all over the country. Whether you're looking to find the hot new AI tool, or maybe learn options you have to upgrade your campus search engine, or even get to your short list of marketing solution vendors, EdTech Connect is the place to go. So visit edtechconnect.com and set up your free profile to get a pulse for what's happening with higher ed technology today.
Okay, we're back.
Okay.
So before the break, we were talking about light bulb moments, and I had a light bulb moment. Like, if I could save my team 7 hours, could we work to a 4-day work week? I'll see if anybody's listening, anybody on my team's listening to the podcast. See if they mention it to me.
Good one.
And I wanted you to give us some more examples of things that you've used or you've seen that saves that type of time.
Sure. I think a big one right now, which a lot of people are exposed to already, is Grammarly. Grammarly has created an AI platform. It's currently called Grammarly Go, although a lot of things are shifting, so the names change. But Grammarly has a version of their platform that is generative AI. And what it does is it helps you be the best communicator that you can. We spend over 70% of our day communicating. Think about it. We're emailing, we're writing, we're writing. If you're doing marketing, you're writing maybe pitches for people, but nonetheless, what happens when our writing is poor? We lose credibility, right? And so on top of streamlining and creating efficiencies within your writing and or improving your writing, you're also gaining more credibility because you don't have all these grammatical errors. And so I find I use Grammarly Go. It has the capability to do some of the things similar to ChatGPT, where it can generate text for you. It can sync into Word, into your email, which a lot of us just use for spelling checks. But it's more robust than that. And so that's a platform that I see if you're spending 70% of your time writing, I really see value in making sure that your writing is quality and that you also have the option to streamline that and edit it with AI instead of yourself.
Before you send it up, I actually use Grammarly, and I consider myself an expert writer.
Yes.
And there's some things that it catches daily where I'm like, oh yeah.
Whoops. Whoopsies.
I use it in my emails and
Yes.
everything, so I really like Grammarly a lot.
Yeah. And it gives you a fun little report. I don't know if you've
you've
looked at the report, it'll say you've used let me think of what it just sent me. You've used like 80% more unique words than the average person today. So
that's nice.
Like I said, I'm a data nerd,
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh, thank you. It's like little compliments it gives to you for working with it.
That's great. Oh, I'm gonna have to check that out now.
Yeah.
I like to be rewarded.
Yeah.
So.
It's a reward system for sure. So
I also saw in your presentation a PowerPoint generator that just blew my mind, and I haven't tried it yet.
yes.
But I do so many presentations, and I watched you build a PowerPoint live, and I'm like, what? What is that?
I will say that's my favorite AI tool right now. I still feel like it's going to be my favorite AI tool for a while. The founder or creator, Grant, created what I think is gold. So Gamma has the ability to help you present ideas beautifully, right? So what he told me when he was speaking to me was people are more engaged when something is visually appealing. And absolutely. I've gone to a lot of conferences where I almost fall asleep the second the PowerPoint, not PowerPoint, but the bullet points come out, And so the capability of Gamma is that you can tell it, like generative AI, you can tell it a topic that you want to create a presentation on. And in about less than 30 seconds, it spits out a beautiful, basically PowerPoint for you. You can present directly from Gamma with a live link, or you can download it to PowerPoint if you like, or a PDF. and it's got so many capabilities to pull in Giphies and to pull in things from the web, and it's very user friendly. And so I just think it's gold. And just recently they launched a website builder, and it will build a website similarly.
Right.
And I haven't tested that yet because I don't have the need for a website. However, I can't imagine being able to create a website in a short period of time. The unique thing from Gamma is that, and where my brain went with this platform, was I don't have to go take a course to be an expert at PowerPoint to make it look visually appealing, or like AI is letting me present something and present an idea without having a graphic design background. So while a lot of the times I don't even use the content that spits out in Gamma, but I use the design factor. Yeah. And I would spend days probably trying to create a beautiful presentation. Now, if my boss asks me, hey, I have this presentation due, here's my content, I can go build it within 30 seconds and then add his content later. But it's gorgeous.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
Oh, I need to try this.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because people are like, oh, that's new, and it is new, but it's not new, because if you go into PowerPoint, they have this feature called Design My Slide, and I've never thought that is AI, so it's actually kind of buried, but if you do your own design and then you like hit this button, it gives you like 20 other ways to lay it out. And I've always used that and gotten compliments, and I think the point I'm trying to make is we already have these tools. We've already been using a lot of these tools. And now they are becoming more and more useful and more robust. So you go out there, people listen, go out there and test them, try them out.
Try.
Yeah. So I'm going to try this one out.
Yes.
So
try, play with it.
Yeah.
What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
You can scrap it. Like, throw it away. It took you 30 seconds. If you hate it, then move on, right? But my thing is, let's see how useful it is before we make judgment about it.
And when it comes to things like PowerPoints, you're still presenting. And even if I use AI to help me write, I'm still having to come up with the idea and edit. Because I'll tell you, if I have like AI write something, they use the word bespoke like constantly. I actually heard somebody say bespoke on a Zoom call today.
Yeah.
Like a live person, and I was like, whoa, like I've never heard anybody use that word. I actually wanted to ask him if he used like ChatGPT and decided to use like it, and it's very adjective heavy. Like
yes.
If write something and it's like, wow, it has a lot of like flowery language.
Yes.
So I always will go in and edit it. So I'm like you, where these are great tools to help. I'm not really afraid that it's going to replace marketing.
Right.
Because a human being still has to read it and understand it and test it and edit it.
Yeah.
If you just plop it in there and let it rip, it's not going to get the result you want.
No.
Yeah.
And so what I'm hearing more often is what they call human in the loop, right? There has to be a human in the loop when it comes to utilizing and creating work with generative AI, right? You can't, I talk to the groups that I speak to, I tell them, listen, you can't copy paste this and put it and send it out to people as though it's fact. We have to remember back to our education where they taught us to critically think, and there are biases in AI, and so you have to be the human in the loop that can see those things and can add your value to whatever you're working on. So
for sure. And it's interesting that you love AI and you're speaking about it, and you've given us some great tips so far. And I find it interesting that you work for a school district, because schools are struggling with students abusing AI.
yes.
And in fact, my own son, who's 16 and he's in 10th grade, he said one of his friends is a great student, straight A student, AP classes. The last kid you would ever think would cheat got pulled out of class last week and came back crying because the teacher ran his paper through some checker, and guess what? He used AI to write his paper, and plagiarized.
Right.
So he got an F, and everybody was shocked because no one ever thought that this would be the kid that would use AI. So, like, how do you balance, like, teaching kids responsible use of these tools and not abusing them? Like, is your school district doing anything around that, or are teachers starting to talk about it?
Yeah, I think that's another reason why I'm really passionate about talking about it. I feel like in some ways it's kind of like this unsaid, we're using it, are we not using it? Everybody's using it. And the sooner we talk about it, the sooner we can be the mentors to students about responsible use, right? So we're now in the age of AI literacy, but back in the 70s, they were talking about digital literacy when computers just like started becoming a big thing, right? And so back then they had to teach us, what is a computer? How do you log in? And then after a while, it was like, oh, you can get all this information on the internet or through the books. But what they had to do is they had to teach us how to, for lack of better words right now, not plagiarize, right? So it's something that we have to teach kids. But if we're not AI literate, how are kids going to be AI literate? So, so that's another thing. Like, school districts are starting to create task force to start the discussion, because you need guardrails, you need responsible use parties for employees and students, and we need to start showing kids how to use it responsibly. But what that begins with is us knowing how to use it responsibly too. And I think there's just a void of that right now. There's a void of that information, and so the more we talk about it, the more we learn, and we will get that, foundational knowledge like we did with computers in AI, over time. But we're the ones that are going to help future generations know how to use it responsibly, just like we learned in high school and college. This is how you cite sources responsibly when it's not your thought, but you can add thought to it, right? So we have to do the same for students and AI.
Now, that's brilliant. That's this concept of AI literacy. Have you done, like, how do you become literate? Like, what are you doing to help them? Like, how can we take that concept and expand it?
Sure. I mean, I'm really still learning what that means. I read articles on it. It's really just getting like a solid foundation of what AI is, what are its advantages, and also what are the ethical implications that are out there, what are the biases, and then also how do we interact with it. And I was going to say one more thing, and it's falling off right now, but it'll come back to me. Shoot, I lost that thought. Could you please repeat your question?
Yes.
So maybe it'll spark.
Okay. Yeah. So, and this concept of AI literacy is great. Yes. So right. How can they become literate? Like, what do you do to become AI literate?
Right. So we'll have to edit this out because I'm totally blanking right now.
Your answer was so great.
Yes. We'll go up to one of those points and then cut off. Sorry.
No.
I just think wanting, first being invested in knowing more about AI other than its daily use. What is it? Where does it come from? And how do I think critically about it? That's a good start. But there's articles, there's more and more literature being written about AI literacy right now than there ever was before. And it's grown exponentially since 2016. So doing more research yourself on the key concepts, and also knowing that it's just not an end all. Like you have to be able to look at it through a human lens and apply, like I keep saying, critical thinking to it. But if we think about it, like you could look at two pictures that look almost exactly the same, and one could be generated by AI and one not. And so we have to start being able to use a different filter when we think about AI as well. So I'm not sure if I answered your question.
No,
Great,
I think
but
that's great.
I might have to edit that out. Sorry. I'm gonna get some water.
I'll give you a second to have some water. Me too.
Sorry. Okay.
I think it's such a great point. People need to really consider, especially in higher ed, because when something new comes along, there's usually like a small group of people that are excited, and then a big group of people that are like, nope.
Yes.
Nope. And I think with AI, there's a lot of fear around it. So I've seen in talking to colleges this kind of like fear of embracing it and exploring it rather than looking at it through the lens of we need to become literate because it's here to stay, and we need to understand how to use AI responsibly and then teach our students how to use it responsibly.
Yeah.
And just like my son's seen, because I've caught him on ChatGPT writing essays, and I'm like, you're going to get caught and you're going to get in trouble. And he'll be like, oh, I'm only using it for research. And I'm like, is the word bespoke in there? It is. But then after this happened, he was like, oh my gosh, you're right, you do get caught. And he said, so my teacher talked to us about, this is a research tool. This is not for you to write papers with. This is for you to get ideas from that you go out and explore on your own. And so I think those are the conversations we need to be having in schools.
Yeah.
We don't want to raise a generation of kids that just write papers on ChatGPT or,
Right.
or make photos using AI. There has to be
Right.
that, like you said before, that human element to it.
Yeah, and maybe so students will learn how to cite their sources, and their source is going to be their own prompts, right? So there's actually there's a way to cite your prompting in your, like if you're using ChatGPT to create a paper.
Right.
And those are things we don't even know about yet.
Right.
So we're just figuring this out. So how would we expect them to know that yet?
Yeah.
And because it's so not talked about, right? Like, our poor kids don't know the boundaries.
Yeah.
They don't have guardrails. And so what we can do is teach them, like his teacher said, tell them it's a tool. And tell them it's like their thought partner. Like this is, I'm hoping this gets the, wheels spinning. It gives you new creative thought. But also it's going to be great to see how teachers could actually really embrace it themselves and start thinking creatively about how they can let their students utilize AI because it's so powerful and it's not going away. And how they can shift and creatively find new ways to test students. Maybe a paper isn't going to test the skill set that we need now. Things have changed, right? So it's like this beautiful start of this whole new world and how we see it. So it might not be a paper anymore, but it might be presenting an idea and them having to do some sort of like presentation to demonstrate that they know that the same information that they would have put in a paper, right? Because maybe the value of the paper isn't going to be as important in the future. I don't know. But
that's a good point, though. That makes you really think. Like, it makes you think as a faculty member, like, like, maybe you're right. Maybe the tools we use to test knowledge need to change to really test knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing to think about.
I talked to a friend of mine who teaches at a private Christian college, and we went for a walk, and she said, I don't like it. I said, okay, let me listen to that. And for about like a mile and a half, I listened to what she was saying, and I said, okay, well, I challenge you. Like, I'm going to push back just a little bit here, because I don't know how you get around just ignoring it, right? Like, how are your students going to be skilled for the future where all the jobs are if you just pretend it doesn't exist, right? Like, that's not going to work. And so I said, I challenge you to maybe come up with a creative way to test their knowledge that's like unconventional. And she paused and like thought about it for a little bit, and she's like, maybe I can do that. And so I just think it's going to be a big shift in how we think about how we test the knowledge of our kids, right? And that's going to take a while. You don't turn a boat instantly. The boat turns very slowly. Right. And so I feel with education, that's how it's going to go. It's got to turn very slowly. Yeah. But I'm happy it's here, right? So I'm happy we're having the conversations. LA Unified just started they've put out resolutions to, with their board about the use of AI and where they plan to go with it. And so once kind of the bigger districts start doing that, the rest follow suit. And it's so exciting to hear that they're all going to have task force, because what that means is that we all get to, share resources too, and continue to grow and learn in our AI literacy.
Okay. Well, it's been a fascinating conversation. I thank you so much. You definitely have given me some light bulb moments.
Yay.
And for those who have made it to this point, we are now going to go have some margaritas, which AI cannot make.
Nope.
Maybe one day there'll be AI margaritas.
Yeah, you never know. It might be able to make it in a machine or something. You just seriously. Tell it. Come up with a new concoction with whatever you have in there.
And so Suzi speaks at a lot of K-12 conferences. And if anybody wants to get a hold of her, she's on LinkedIn, or you can always reach out to me as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.